You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
And welcome back to the internet version of the Wrestling Epicenter, also home of the Wrestling Epicenter here on the Blaze 1260. And joining us now, we have indie worker Simply Luscious on the phone with us. She's been gracious enough to give us a few minutes of our time to catch up with her and see what she has been up to. That's a tongue twister for you. Simply Luscious, it's a pleasure to have you on the phone.
Hello. How you guys doing?
We're doing excellent. It's a pleasure to speak with you as always. We're going to get right into the questions here. First one we have for you is, you're the only female graduate from the Shawn Michaels Texas Wrestling Academy. You got to see that as a great honor.
Yes, I do. Actually, I have a funny story for that. I went to WWE. It was Hershey, Pennsylvania. First guy I saw, actually he was the second guy I saw, Shawn. I was like, oh, I'm set. I'm like, hey, Shawn, remember me? He's like, no. And I was like Fred Flintstone. I like shrunk to like 2 inches, and I was just so embarrassed, and my ego was just crushed. And he just said, I was like, hey, it's me. I graduated from your school. He's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I guess I'm pretty big now, so he didn't notice. Like, I'm a lot more muscular, so he didn't recognize me. But I mean, I was just so excited to see him, and no, I don't remember you.
How long ago did you graduate from there, exactly?
It's been about 5 years, I think. Yeah, 5 years.
And when did this happen with Shawn Michaels?
Like, about a month and a half ago.
Oh.
I'm like, hey, Shawn. No. I was like, thanks.
Oh, and what were you doing with the WWE? You gonna try it out?
I was gonna have a match, but Victoria's plane was delayed.
Oh.
So unfortunately, she got there late, and I just got in the ring with some of the divas and stuff. And then I went the second night. Actually, the first night was in New York. The second night was in Hershey.
Mm-hmm.
And then they actually called me to wrestle her in Philly, but I was in Mexico at the time, so I missed out on that. But that's when Hogan came back.
Oh, right on.
Hogan, who we just interviewed 3 days ago.
I heard that. My mom told me.
Yeah, so.
That was something else, man. What an honor that was.
I'm sure he's amazing.
Yeah, he was a great guy. We got him for about 20 minutes of time. It was excellent.
I want to watch his show. They don't show it in Mexico, and I'm usually there a month at a time. But actually, I just moved back to Texas, so I'll be going on the weekends now.
Do you do a lot of wrestling in Mexico?
Yeah. I've been going for like 2 years now. But now that I moved closer, I actually just got all my stuff today. I drove 29 hours from Philadelphia. I was living there for 4 years, but I work.
Now, what promotions do you work for out of Mexico?
I've done AAA, CMLL, LLF. There's so many like little ones there, but it's just so much fun. The fans are just so into it, and you're like a god there. They just really look up to you.
Yeah, living here in Arizona late at night, or I would say somewhere in the vicinity of like 2 a.m. Every time you flip in, there's like I can't even try to pronounce the name of the stations, but they always have the Mexican wrestling on there. So every once in a while, you see somebody that I know, like Vampiro or.
Yeah, Vampiro works in Monterey a lot, also where I work at.
Do you find there's a big difference in the style in Mexico versus the style here in the States?
Definitely. There's a lot of high flying. Like Rey Mysterio, like pretty much grew up wrestling in Monterey. I mean, they just love him there, and you got a bunch of Rays running around wrestling. It's just amazing, like the things they do, and it's like 2 out of 3 falls. So that alone, the first night I come back, I'm always like dead, but a week later, I'm just in great shape. I mean, 2 out of 3 falls is like 30 minutes in the heat, no air conditioning, a bunch of drunk people and thousands of drunk people, and it's just hot, like you can't breathe. But I come back, like I had a match, and where was I? Somewhere close to Pittsburgh. It was like 8 minutes. I didn't even break a sweat. Wow, good shape.
Well, what style do you prefer? American wrestling or Mexican style?
I would say I like the American style, but I like the crowd, like the Mexican crowd. They're just so into it. I feel like I can't wrestle in New York. I sit there and try to kill myself, and they just like they just don't appreciate it, and they criticize it, and then they'll go write about it on the internet, and it's like, why do I bother?
We actually talked to both Francine, who works with us, and Lance Storm just the other day. And he was telling us how he really kind of prefers working in Japan simply because of the level of respect that he receives versus he's, a legitimate, like, NFL type athlete. He's received versus, kind of a I don't know what you want to call it, how they view it in the States. I hesitate to use the word second rate, but that's kind of how it's almost viewed as.
I call it the bastard child of entertainment.
I've
been to Japan too, and yeah, it's just a lot of Japanese go to Mexico and Mexicans go to Japan. They just have respect for each other. And actually, I was rooming with this girl from Japan, and she doesn't speak any English. We were speaking Spanish to each other. I thought that was kind of
really
ironic, but yeah.
That's an interesting combination.
Yeah. Wow.
Japanese and Spanish.
What was I going to say? Oh, we got sidetracked. I was about Mexico. Anyway, go on.
You mentioned that you almost killed yourself in the ring in New York, and I got to ask you this question. I used to be friends with Trinity, and she told me the story about how you took a power bomb or something in the super bomb, was it?
Yeah.
You took a super bomb, I believe it was in USA Pro Wrestling,
yep.
And you pretty much laid there with your eyes open for like a minute.
I was unconscious for 10 minutes. Well, they said I got up and walked to the back. Like, thank goodness I used to carpool with Sandman. He's my best friend. Him and his whole family, his wife, and they took care of me. I woke up and his wife was like packing my suitcase. I'm like, where are we at? She's like, you got knocked out. I was like, oh, huh, okay. And I would try to sleep in the back of the van, and Sandman would just keep throwing like bottles at me to keep me awake. And it was crazy. There was a boxing doctor there, and he said he's never seen anything like that. Like, I was like, leave me the F alone. Pretty
how were the effects of that? Anything long term at all, or?
What? No.
Was there any?
No. I tend to like a while ago, I was going to tell you something, and I totally I spaced out a little bit. Like, this is probably like my third one that I know of that I've had. And that's why, again, I love Mexico. Like, I can go give someone an arm drag, which is called a suplex over there, and they love it, you know. They totally respect it.
Who was the one that performed that maneuver with you?
Excuse me?
Who was the one that performed that maneuver on you?
The super bomb.
Billy Real.
Billy Real.
I don't know. Where are you guys at?
We are in Arizona.
In Phoenix, and Patrick is coming to us from Maryland.
Yep, most boring state in the country.
Well, Maryland, you might know of him. I don't know. Probably not. You wouldn't know him because he's like the New York area, Philadelphia.
Actually, James and I both grew up in New York.
I love New York. I belong there. Like, if I ever make lots and lots of money, I'm going to buy an apartment there.
You have to make lots and lots of money to afford to live there.
Yeah, they rent.
Back to Texas. It's just crazy. I mean, I miss my family, and like I said, I'm in Mexico all the time, and it's just so much cheaper. Like, I don't know, everything.
So I take it you like working the Mexican territories more so than the hotbed of the independent scene is obviously the East Coast, the Philadelphia, New York area.
That's what I was saying. I don't even like work there anymore. And a lot of it, like, it was good when I first started out because I drove everywhere, and now I don't even have to drive pretty much. Yeah, look at me. I don't have to drive, so I mean, of course, why not be by my family if I'm not working up there? And I hate the snow, and it's just, I don't know. But it's definitely good if you're starting out.
Indeed.
In that area, because Philadelphia, I did like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut. Everything's like 4 or 5 hours away.
Well, going back to the Texas Wrestling Academy, you trained with some great talent, such as Michael Shane.
Thank you.
Yep. Garrison Cade.
American Dragon.
Yeah, indeed. Who do you feel you learned the most from out of those guys?
Stanky.
Really?
We kind of like, when we first got there, we like butted heads, because like, I was Sean's like first girl, and he was like Sean's little buddy, you know, and he'd always have him in the front line, like leading the squats and stuff, and then I started going up there, and we just, I don't know, it was kind of like, we were so competitive, you know. He really pushed me a lot, because, you know, actually the first time I wanted to go to school, I was married at the time, and my ex-husband, it was his idea, and we saw Spanky training in the school. 6 weeks later, we went to a show in Austin. He was on SmackDown. He had his tryout. That's when he went to the developmental, and I was like, wow, this kid did this so fast, you know, he really inspired me a lot. I'm like, if he can do it, I can do it. And
he just got brought back into the WWE as well, from what I understand.
Yeah, he was in Japan for a while, and they absolutely love him over there. He was Leonardo Spanky. Like, they thought he looked like Leonardo DiCaprio. So they had like the techno version of the song, and he would stand on the turnbuckle and do the little pose, and they loved him there. He was a playboy there.
Yeah, Steve Corino, when he was on the show, he said that he's like he's like Hulk Hogan's coming there whenever Spanky goes to Japan.
Yeah, definitely. I did. I went with Steve for 01. I left a couple of matches there. I was the heel referee there. I was with the Americans, and I was screwing over all the Japanese. It was a pretty good time. I enjoyed 01.
Well, let's talk about another territory, TNA, that you worked at for just a short time. What did you think of your stay there?
I enjoyed it. Like when they brought me in, they're like, "Hey, it was gonna be me and Tracy Brooks. We started this group called Bitch Slap."
Yeah.
And we were gonna beat up everybody. Like my first night, I did this interview with Kid Cash because I was a nurse, and I beat him up pretty much.
Yeah.
And
Well, you put something on something, and same effect.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that part.
Can't be too graphic, but yeah, I got what you're saying.
Hey, that's cool. I'm gonna beat up everybody, and like, I don't know. Tracy got stuck at the border, and then I went with Valentina, and we were just I was fighting with the cage girls, the cage dancers.
Yeah.
I wasn't wrestling, and I don't know. I'm a wrestler, and it was I wasn't happy there. I was getting irritated every week, and
It seemed like you guys kept doing the same thing almost every week, just coming out and attacking the cage, and then that was it. And then you get dragged out. It was like,
yeah, you saw that.
Yeah.
I didn't really, people remember me by that. I was like, okay. I want to beat people up.
Yeah.
You enjoyed the Nurse Veronica character?
Well, I liked it because my mom's a nurse, and she's my biggest hero, so it's kind of cool being a nurse.
Okay.
Nurse that kicks ass. But, I mean, it's unfortunate, like what's become of women's wrestling, on one hand, I want to go to WWE, but I don't see myself wrestling there, and it's really sad because I know lots of girls. Dark Angel, Sarah Stock, she's in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
She's beautiful. She can wrestle, and ODB. I know so many women wrestlers that we could have a really, really, really good matches, and it's just unfortunate that we don't get to show our skills.
Why do you think the WWE has kind of pulled the plug on the women's division at this point in time?
I really don't know. I know Trish is hurt, and I know when she comes back, there's a chance. I heard that there's a chance they're going to bring it back. But I mean, I talked with a lot of people when I was there, and it's just I don't see anything happening anytime in the future. But I would like to, since going back to Mexico, I've always said all my life that I'm a Mexican, and I wanted to come closer and really go learn that style, and maybe something could happen with psychosis and all that. Try and throw that idea out there that I want to go with the Mexicans, but I've been informed that I'm actually not Mexican because I wasn't born in Mexico, so I'm kind of trying to find myself right now. Kind of sad. All my life I've been saying I'm Spanish, but anyway, it's my sad story.
Well, I mean, Eddie Guerrero wasn't.
I pitched that to him. Yeah, maybe some Latina heat,
Yeah.
That would be good. I'd be the first Mexican and WWE woman.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Wow.
I've actually never had that before.
No. I think it'd be
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I guess now that I'm thinking of it, I can't really recall a character such as that.
No, I'm really big now. I'm a lot bigger from Nurse Veronica days. I've been training really hard every day. Like Mexico, like I said, you could wrestle 4 or 5 times a week. And that's good cardio, and I've been working out very hard at the gym. And
Do you think that...
I'm getting older now, so this is what I want to do, and I'm ready now.
Do you think that's a detriment or a benefit to be, built a little bit, bigger muscular-wise as a female in the wrestling industry?
I definitely think it helps me out a lot because I have that and other girls don't. I mean, I've been working out for 9 years now, and it's starting to show. And I definitely think that'll help if they do bring back the women's division. I think I have a lot to offer. And actually, this Friday I'm going to Atlanta, Georgia, and we're going to take some pictures. I'm going to go and try and do Iron Man magazine.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, and I'm going to try and do some of that. I know Trish started out doing that. Might as well make money doing that also. And then Saturday's the show. I think it's going to be WEW/ECW type. I think Dudley Boys are going to be there. I don't know. Dan Cole runs it. Francine will be there. And they're going to have the first part of the pay-per-view, and then we're second.
Yeah, they're doing that Joey Styles Presents Extreme Hardcore or whatever it is.
That's what it is.
Yeah, we're going to interview Joey as well, and Francine was saying that she wants to be a part of it, so I guess she is.
Yeah, well, she's like the commissioner of the Women's Federation. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. You do work there, too. And
yeah, I've been there. I was there when they started out, like, at this place called Froggy's. I don't know, you're from Maryland, or what did you say you were from?
I'm from Jersey. My co-host is from upstate New York.
Okay, well, I don't know. It's around Jersey or somewhere. Like, it's pretty famous, like, a little nightclub. We had, like, a 2-inch ring we would wrestle in.
I remember that, and the announcer.
I've stuck with it. It was more like strippers trying to wrestle.
Right, and there's
really cheesy ones. Like, I feuded with Alexis Lurie a lot.
Hmm.
And
you don't think that Alexis Lurie is a good wrestler, or no?
Oh no, that's why I said I wrestled her like every time they had a show.
Yeah.
We just had a big feud because it's pretty much me and her.
But the only ones who knew how to work, yeah.
Yeah, now they have money, so they've been flying in, like I said, ODB and Angel before she went to Ohio Valley. And now they've got some money. I guess they're doing pretty good on pay-per-view and stuff. So, see what happens with that.
You going to keep working them even though you're working more Mexico?
Oh, definitely. Like I said, Dan's taken such good care of me, and I've stepped through all the trash. Like, it was really trashy before.
It used to be, yeah. I remember they used to be NC-17 rated.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, don't put me on those DVDs, don't associate me with that.
Yeah.
People are like, you work for them? And the last show we had in Philadelphia, I guess they had, like, everybody from, God, who was it? They had, like, food people there, like, health department, like, I guess because they said it was so dirty, the stuff they did before.
Mm-hmm.
So there was, like, no kissing allowed, no lesbian action going on, and of course...
Well, don't they still have, like, a lot of porn stars and things like that on the roster?
They used to, yeah. Every now and then they get some, and I'm just like, Dan...
Because I know, like, Angelica Sin worked there for a while.
I don't remember. I think I've heard that name. There was a couple of shows I didn't make it to.
Yeah, you just happened to not make it to it.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. That's when I was doing Ring of Honor. I was doing that more. And, I don't know, kind of went...
Speaking of Ring of Honor, did you enjoy doing any work there? And what do you think the future holds for Ring of Honor?
Actually, I haven't seen the show in a while. Like, I haven't been there in a couple of years. I was there when it first started out. Like, I was in the Prophecy with Christopher Daniels.
Yeah.
And just being in the ring with him alone, just, I don't know, it helped me become, like, the person I am today. He kind of rubbed off on me. He's just such an amazing, like, just his presence, like, when you talk to him in person, there's just something about him. You know he's a star.
Oh, he's a phenomenal worker.
Yeah, it's just amazing. And
were there any other workers at ROH that you thought could be megastars for the future?
Well, Spanky was there. Paul London started out. Actually, my teacher, like the head trainer, Rudy Gonzalez, I don't know if you know him.
Mm-hmm.
He was Sean's head trainer. He used to rent a van. We'd all pay $100, me, Paul London, Michael Shane. We would drive 29 hours straight, wrestle for Ring of Honor, then drive back. Just because that was the first place I ever started wrestling besides TWA. Well, it was ETW after Sean sold it.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was we probably did that like 4 or 5 times.
Well, I mean, that's part of, quote-unquote, paying your dues.
Well, yeah, that was a bit much. Like, that's why everybody, like, when we first started out there, they just had so much respect for us. Like, they drove from New York and they complained. I'm like, we came from Texas to be here, so that definitely got us over with all the people in the locker room.
Any chance we'd ever see you go back to Ring of Honor?
I would love to. It's just, I started working for other people, and I don't know, it just kind of went the other way.
Company's kind of changed a little bit, too.
Yeah.
So the production values are a little bit higher.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. I think it's a great style, and he's got really good talent there. Definitely. He's got great ideas. I don't know.
Is there any interest in heading back to TNA at all on your end? Or they contact you at all regarding it?
Well, I saw Trinity, like I said, that last show I did in New York. She was there, and I talked to her, and she says they want to start using women's wrestling again, and pretty much, like, it's not that they didn't want me, it's just they had nothing for me.
Right.
She says I need to contact them because they're just they just don't think about you. You know, they have so many people. But it's just nuts. I really, really enjoy, like, my life in Mexico, and I don't know, I'm happy there, and this is why I do it. You know, I feel good after I wrestle. And just people just run up and love me. And although, like, I was thinking this the other day, I have a problem getting a boyfriend. Like, I'll wrestle in front of thousands of people. Everybody tells me they love me, give me presents, and then I go to my hotel and I'm all alone. It's so depressing. Aww. Aww. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, that kind of brings.
I was going with this.
That kind of brings up a bad question that I was kind of cringing asking, but.
Ask me. I don't even know what you're going to ask me.
What does it involve the word Steve Corino?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rumor on the internet was that you and Steve Corino were an item for a while. Any truth to it?
Yeah, actually, we were. I'm not. There's no hiding it. I mean, it just. We went our separate ways, and actually, he always tells me not to repeat anything, but I don't care. I moved to Philadelphia to be with him, and it didn't work out, and it's so expensive. Like, I got here last Friday, and my stuff got here today. My parents came into some money, and they could afford to move me back. So, I don't know. I have nothing bad to say. He helped me out a lot. Like, he's very smart as far as wrestling goes, and I have a lot of respect for him, you know.
And he's pretty much the gateway to Japan at this point, too, so.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, well, Chuck, anything?
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you see the future holding for Simply Luscious in the wrestling industry?
Well, I've been talking to some people from WWE. I'm going to try and get out there. There's a show in Waco, Texas. I'm going to let them know that I'm back here. See what happens. Maybe I can change the women's wrestling scene, you know, spark up some interest there, see what happens. I don't know, be the first Mexican there. Or Latina, whatever I am. Actually, my thing is I'm a Texicana. I'm from Texas, but I'm not white. So I'm a Texicana.
Well, the way the women's division is right now in the WWE, I'm sure any wrestling fan would be happy to have you.
Aw, I hope so. I'm really trying, and this is my job. This is what I want to do, so I got moved back. I just have to unpack, and I'm going to really, like, hit it hard and get myself out there and try to change this, because I think there's a good market for women's wrestling. I mean, it's sexy, the divas, but isn't it sexier a girl that can kick your ass?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned the state of women's wrestling. Do you think that the way that the WEW company is being run now with, you know, it's not exactly 100% serious, because some of them you could tell are, you know, fantastic workers, but a lot of them are. You think that's starting to become more of like the standard bearer for what female wrestling should be? You don't want to say yes, right?
I'm not going to say anything.
Okay. We'll just cut that one completely out.
Fair enough.
You already got me with a Corino one. You're kidding me, aren't you? Anything else that you heard?
No, I don't think there's anything other dirt-wise that we can bring up. No.
Dirt-wise. No.
We try not to go too deep into the dirt sheets if we can help it. You know what I mean?
And I get like really upset. Like, people always, when I tell people like that don't know about wrestling, I say I'm a wrestler. They're like, Jello wrestling, baby oil wrestling, and I just get so irritated. Like, I love my mom so much, and I have so much respect for her. Like, people tell me, oh, if you do go to WWE, you're going to do Playboy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And they're like, yes, you are. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, for $1 million you will. And I never will. Like, I can't do that to my mom. I can't do that.
Well, and I'll tell you what, it seems like the chicks that don't end up doing Playboy are the ones that seem to be ultimately more successful. No, I mean, you look at like Trish Stratus or Victoria or Molly Holly. I mean, they've had longevity in the business and they've been extremely successful.
Yeah.
You know, the ones like Sable who have done it, you know, end up leaving the company, coming back and leaving, and don't seem to reach the same level of success. They might have a quick spike in success, but it doesn't really prove to be beneficial long term, I don't think.
Yeah.
And we actually talked to Kimberly Page a couple months ago about that, and she said, you know, while Playboy has its benefits, it's almost been a detriment to her in certain situations, and, you know, maybe it wasn't the best thing that she could have done. So,
I mean, they kind of typecast you as, you know, just a diva, dainty diva that can't, you know, take a bump or anything, I guess.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I've got my fake nails now, and I'm trying to look like a diva, but I can't do that. Like, I bartend and I waitress in topless bars, and actually I make so much more money with my clothes on. Like, guys just give me money hoping that I'll give them a table dance, and I just started a new job, actually, last night here in San Antonio. Yeah.
I understand the trouble of late-night jobs.
Yeah, it supports my wrestling habit, though.
True enough, true enough. Well, we can't thank you enough for our time.
Thank you so
It was
much.
definitely our pleasure. We also wanted to extend to you an invitation, too. We have wrestlers that come on our forums and kind of speak with the fans, get their name out there, and talk about what's going on. If you're all interested in doing that, we'd be more.
Hello, welcome back to the internet edition of the Wrestling Epicenter.
Hey, this is Tracy Wrestling here. Listening to the interactive interview.
Kelly, joined as always by Eric Clancy. Eric, how you doing today?
Sick.
Yeah, you sound like crap.
Yeah, I'm coughing and sneezing, and I'm gonna try to do it away from the phone, but anyway, there we go. Yeah, so how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just sitting here, waiting to see the show, basically. I just had a brain fart right there.
Let's get into our a little bit of our SmackDown talk. Yeah.
Okay, you posters at the forums advised that we should shorten the SmackDown discussion, which we've decided to do this week, see how well it goes. Basically, we'll talk about the best parts of the show, worst parts of the show, and what we thought of the show overall. What was your favorite segment of the show, Eric?
Well, what I liked about it was kind of a catch-22. The fact that I like seeing Christian in the main event, but once again, it seems like he's like obviously kind of what I like to call the main event jobber. Like, he's in the main event, but he never wins. So, I mean, I like seeing Christian up there. I think Batista's improved, so it's always fun to see him. But, it's not, it was my favorite segment, but wasn't that great of a segment.
I'll be honest, one segment that I really enjoyed was the return of Randy Orton, somebody that we've praised on this show several times. He was able to carry the returning legend Kamala to a watchable match that consisted mostly of punches and kicks, but it was thoroughly entertaining. I really enjoyed that segment. I think Randy Orton proved that night that he really does deserve his main event spot.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with that. I think Orton is. I know JBL has had pretty much the reins of SmackDown over the past year, and he's done a fantastic job. But the fact is, I think like Triple H should do on the Raw side of things and hand things over to Edge eventually, I think Orton's going to be the guy who is going to have to rule that brand for a little while.
I'll tell you what, a main event feud between Batista and Orton would be thoroughly entertaining, maybe with Orton winning back that world title, because he didn't really get a chance to shine with that belt, so maybe we'll get to see a little bit more out of the Legend Killer this fall.
Yeah, so, of course, he's got that big match against The Undertaker headed up at SummerSlam, which you, and not me, will be at.
Yes, and I'm going to enjoy every goddamn minute of it.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm at Raw the next night.
Yeah.
So say Bret Hart does show up. I get to have the fallout. So deal with that, Patrick. Kelly.
Yeah, well, if Bret Hart shows up, you're going to have to get a new co-host, because I'm going to freaking piss my pants and go into a coma, so let's try to get a new co-host.
Well, the thing is, I hope he does show up at SummerSlam, because that means, I mean, they gotta have an interview segment on Raw, and I would love to be there. So, yeah. I mean, it's going to be exciting if you're at either of these shows, and I think both are probably. I mean, I know SummerSlam sold out. I think Raw probably is at this point too. So, yeah.
Yeah, we're looking for something amazing to happen here at SummerSlam.
Yeah, it's going to be. We're building this up so big, so we could be let down, but it's nothing to be optimistic.
One return that I think is more likely than Bret Hart, and one that I've been thinking about for quite a while, is Brock Lesnar. I know WWE.com said that he turned down the contract that was offered to him, but they could just be working us.
Yeah, agreed. I think if anything, Lesnar Batista feud is on the horizon, which would probably get Batista over really well, because who doesn't hate Brock Lesnar? Unfortunately,
I do.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think that Lesnar skips over more deserving talent like JBL, Randy Orton, and a few other guys who are and have worked their way up to be top-tier heels in the past few years since Lesnar's arrival. And quite frankly, I don't think that's fair.
I would have to agree, especially considering Brock Lesnar really never paid his dues to begin with. Even before he walked out.
I just remember when I just remember when he came up and when he was on WWE TV, and this was a joke I heard on one of the websites, and they were talking about Lesnar and how he's like, yeah, Lesnar does this great stuff, but guess what? He could do a shooting star press. And every time he had a match, and people said, oh, that was a good match, they'd say, yeah, but Lesnar can do a shooting star press. So on this website, I forgot what it was, but they had a joke where every time somebody said something like that, it would get more insane each time, and the website would joke around and saying something like, yeah, you think that's amazing? Lesnar can walk on water. And yeah, you think that's amazing? Lesnar rearranged the cosmos. But just remember, and then we finally see the shooting star press, and he botches it. But
on the grandest stage of them all, the most famous spot of all time.
Yes.
Way to go, Lesnar.
But so yeah, it's going to be an exciting SummerSlam. I think the card's pretty much all sewn up, isn't it?
I think we may see a few more matches added on. Christian isn't on the card yet. Chris Benoit isn't on the card yet. And if I go to this live show and Carlito, Chris Benoit, and Christian are not on this card, I'm going to be really pissed.
Well, yeah, this wouldn't be the first time Christian was a main event. It was a big time player, not on the card for SummerSlam. If you remember SummerSlam 2003, he was the Intercontinental Champion, getting over quite well actually, and he was kept off the card.
Which was stupid, but
yeah, it's unbelievable how a secondary champion can be left off the second biggest show of the year. But you know, that's seems to be what happens.
There hasn't been an Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania for 3 years, so.
No,
at this point, it's not that surprising at all. But
wait, who was the champion this year? Oh, you're right. There hasn't been. There hasn't been since 18, right? Yeah.
I mean, granted, Orton was put in the handicap match with The Rock.
Yeah, but it wasn't on the line.
Right, but that was understandable.
Yeah, they all had their spots, but nobody ever really defended it. I didn't think about that. It's a long gap. Go ahead.
Yeah. And, well, right now, Carlito's the Intercontinental Champion. Right now, we've seen he's just Chris Jericho's lackey at this point.
Yeah, I don't know.
It doesn't look like he's got anything going for him either.
Well, I think Carlito, obviously we've gone through it quite a bit on this show. I think Carlito has a lot more to offer than they're giving him credit at this point. I thought the Intercontinental title would be the start of a huge push, and quite frankly, he has been involved in some main event matches with John Cena, but he's kind of made to look a little foolish with the fact that even with all this interference, he still can't beat John Cena. You'd think if he would be like, they want to make him like a peg below, he'd still be able to beat John Cena with all this interference, and it's kind of made Carlito look a little weak, and I don't know. I don't think that's smart.
Right, and with the Raw roster right now, I think they have a lot of guys that could carry a secondary title division. They've got Gene Snitsky, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Masters, Carlito, and they just got Matt Hardy back. I think maybe he could be given the Intercontinental title for a while, maybe do something with it. I don't know. So they've got a stronger mid-card on Raw than they would like us to believe for whatever reason.
Yeah, well,
it's just a shame they don't build any of those guys up.
Yeah, well, the mid-card's pretty much non-existent on SmackDown as far as the champion goes. I mean, they hardly do anything with Orlando Jordan as far as building up his feuds or even actually giving him feuds. I think Benoit was the first feud he had for someone with his title.
Then there was no real feud there. They just had a match at the Great American Bash with no real interaction.
I mean, Benoit won the #1 contendership, but there's no real animosity or anything between the two. It was it's really just thrown together. So, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like WWE at this point, they focus more on main eventers and the upper mid-card, which is, when you get to shows, the cross-brand shows like WrestleMania and SummerSlam and Survivor Series, which is both shows on one pay-per-view, they tend to have, like, every match on the card will have at least one main eventer on it.
Yeah.
So the mid-card and the undercard kind of get screwed during the big show.
I mean, that's...
they've really been neglecting the mid-card for a long time, and it shows up in the ratings. I mean, Raw's getting pretty good ratings, but a decent having a better mid-card would help them out a lot, because if they were built up more, then their segments would be watched more. I don't know. I really don't know. You need everybody in there. You need every piece of the puzzle going. You need your main eventers. You need your openers. You need your mid-carders, upper mid-carders, lower mid-carders. Everybody needs to do their job for it to work. It's a team effort. And if the creative team doesn't get behind the lower guys, then, the entire product, it may not suffer, but it's not going to succeed as it might if they did.
Well, the two most successful eras in the history of wrestling were the rock and roll era, rock and wrestling era, and the Attitude Era. And while, Hogan and Austin are given credit for being the two megastars during those eras, but they had tremendous rosters, well-built, top-to-bottom, solid shows all the time.
Yeah, well, when you think about just the tag teams in both eras that made so much money. I mean, the Hardy Boys made tons of money. The Hart Foundation, the Rockers, the LOD, Demolition, Edge and Christian, the Dudley Boys, the APA, and then you think of just some of the mid-carders, like Earthquake and Rick Martel, Razor Ramon, Diesel, struggling to think of the other, Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, all those guys. They sold a lot of merchandise in their own right, and it's because WWE and actually WWE both times had all the pieces working. And when that all comes together, it starts to function, and everything just starts to go very smoothly for the company.
Right, absolutely. And one mid-carder that I thought could have been a main eventer was D'Lo Brown. And I always go on my D'Lo Brown rants about he could have been a world champion, but it was just a shame that he never went anywhere after his initial mid-card push.
Yeah,
I don't know why he messed up.
Surprisingly, I actually agree with you. I think I don't know about world champion, but I do know he probably could have mixed it up with a few guys there, because I remember he got a huge. First, he got that initial push for the European title when he had the chest protector, got him over as a heel. Then he finally got over as a face in summer of '99. He was really over. Won the Intercontinental title, and right after that, they jobbed him to Jeff Jarrett and never did anything with him after that. And it was really, they made him Godfather Stooge, and I thought D'Lo was in fantastic shape at that time. He could have done a lot more than they had him do, but I actually agree.
Yeah, there are a few guys they dropped the ball with.
Hardcore Holly came in '99.
Yeah, Hardcore Holly's more talented than people give him credit for. I know. Don't get up saying that.
Well, I don't know at this point, but in '99 he certainly wasn't. He was red hot then, and after Russo left, they really dropped the ball with him. A lot of the guys got lost in the shuffle once Russo left. The Headbangers, D'Lo, and Hardcore Holly being the notable ones. But there's a few guys that really didn't capitalize on the momentum of. But
Test.
Well, that was interesting. I was reading the news board today, and Test, Andrew Martin, former talent for the WWE, posted something on his website where he said that he was. There was an original plan for the wedding angle between he and Stephanie. Originally, the plan was, while Russo was there, was that at the wedding, he would turn on Stephanie and say, "Screw you, I'm having an affair with your mother." So whether or not that would have worked better, I don't know, but who knows? I don't know why I just brought this up. Well, I just read it. I thought it was hysterical.
Well, the wedding angle itself went off fine. The subsequent follow-up to that went off terribly, because remember, Test got jobbed out to Triple H without him getting hardly any offense in the matches. If they would have made him competitive and given maybe him a count-out or a DQ victory over Triple H, it probably would have turned him into a superstar, because if you watch the 2000 Royal Rumble, this is like a month and a half after, or a month after. So they had already dropped the ball. It had already cooled down. But you can even hear the after effects when his music hits. It's a huge reaction, and it's an MSG. So, I mean, they really did drop the ball with Test. Then he didn't get motivated. He wasn't motivated after that, and, it was all downhill from there.
Yep, and since we're talking about past moments, and since SummerSlam is coming up in about 8 days, a little over a week, why don't we talk about some of the SummerSlams that have come before us, the entire history of SummerSlam on this show, whatever. What do you say?
I say that I know what my favorites are.
Really? Well, I think you told me what your favorites were, and I think they were some of my favorites too. So maybe
what are they? Just to see if you know.
I believe you told me your favorites were 98 and 99?
Well, actually, I want to say, 92 is one of my favorites, but there was a 97 to 99 was a really strong series of SummerSlams. But I'd probably say 92 and 99. I'm not sure. I'd have to. It's a close one, but yeah, those are two of my favorites.
I honestly don't remember 99 all that much, but we'll go in chronological order to see what happened.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Like WrestleMania, SummerSlam 1988 began in Madison Square Garden.
Where are you going to begin it?
Yeah, where it all begins again.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know. You think they'll do that for the 20th SummerSlam? Probably not.
And then people will still not know what it means, but go ahead.
Okay, well, this card was solid, not spectacular, but I think the one standout match here was the main event, the Mega Bucks versus the Mega Powers.
Yeah, this was obviously back in the days without weekly, the days of week-to-week feuds being built up for a month at a time. This was back when it was like month-to-month build-up. And obviously this had been the fallout of the DiBiase versus Hogan and Savage type thing. So it wasn't as compelling as the Savage DiBiase main event of WrestleMania, but it was a match that fans would pay for, and yeah, it was a decent main event.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this match actually. I was just watching it not too long ago. Personally, it's still one of my favorite tag matches to this day. Just the novelty of having Hogan and Savage working with DiBiase, and those two always worked well with DiBiase. DiBiase could work well with just about anybody, and when you put him in the ring with, when you put him in there with two Type A personalities like Hogan and Savage, you're going to get something good. And anytime you put Hogan and Andre in the ring together, you'd get a good reaction. So I thought this match really came off well.
Yeah, you could put a guy like Hogan would draw the crowds and DiBiase would do the work. I mean, DiBiase was a fantastic worker. Nobody seems to remember that. He had the Savage DiBiase match at WrestleMania 4 still remains to this day an absolute classic and is a fantastic match, chock full of emotion and everything you look for in a big main event. But that seems to always get skipped over. Nobody seems to remember that or give DiBiase any credit.
You know why that is? Because Clash of the Champions got a better rating.
What?
Because Clash of the Champions got a better rating.
We've been doing by Mr. James Walsh. How you doing?
Once again.
I'm not going to stay long. I just wanted to come in and throw that little thought in there because I thought it was the most ridiculous argument I've ever heard in my life. That a pay-per-view is blasted because a free event on television got a higher rating. If it didn't, that would be a sad state of affairs. Okay.
Anyway.
But if we're going to talk about my favorite part of SummerSlam '88, honestly, and I know I'm going to sound like a pervert, Liz.
Have your skirt off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You do come off as a pervert, but it's okay.
Well, I have to admit, I enjoyed that too, but not as much today because people look at me like I'm a necrophiliac, so that'd be totally wrong.
Well, that's how you get hired.
You're screwing her brains out.
All right, this is gross. It's almost as gross as when I suggested we chop up Dominic and put him in a briefcase. So James, you gonna leave us after that nugget of wisdom?
Nugget of wisdom is done.
All right, thank you very much for your time.
I'll see you next week, guys.
All right, thank you, James.
All right. Great. Next SummerSlam was SummerSlam 1989, which had some good solid matches here. One match that I thought was quite interesting, just for the sheer novelty of it, was Demolition and Hacksaw Jim Duggan versus the Twin Towers and Andre the Giant in a six-man tag. That was like, the Twin Towers and Andre the Giant is easily one of the coolest pairings for a six-man tag I've ever seen, just because they were so freaking huge.
Well, I felt this was around the point where they started to drop the ball of Andre. I know he was getting older, and he couldn't move as well, but right. he was still friggin' huge and didn't really hurt him. It just helped Hogan. So they still could have used him as an absolute monster to build younger stars, and they didn't. They really treated Andre kind of like they treat Big Show now, which is,
He's just kind of there.
Yeah.
I believe I remember reading somewhere that he worked house shows with the Ultimate Warrior where Warrior beat him in like 30 seconds.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, That just sucks.
That doesn't really help anybody there, but...
No, well, Andre should not lose to someone like the Warrior, but go ahead.
Well, after you just trashed him, I know I'm going to probably get heat for this. What I thought was the best match on the card was Rick Rude defending his Intercontinental title against the Ultimate Warrior. I know I take every cheap shot against the Warrior that I can. I think he was a horrible worker. I never liked him. And when he beat Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, I wanted to go on a rampage and freaking kill him. But I have to admit that this match was pretty good.
Well,
better matches.
When the Warrior had someone who could work with him, and the match was planned out, and he got really, really lucky, he could put on a good match. Did he do it every night? No. I mean, examples, him and Hogan at Mania was a great match. I mean, matches with Rude, for whatever reason, Rude could always pull a good match out of him. I don't know why. I mean, Rude is a good worker, but he was never like that, the guy who could, I can get a great match with a broomstick, but somehow they always seem to work well together, and I would agree with you. But, yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good match.
All right, definitely the best match out of their series. Rude sold like a monster for Warrior. He looked like Warrior was killing him, but let's move on to the main event of this show. Once again, following the tradition of the previous SummerSlam, it carried over from the main event from the WrestleMania. Hulk Hogan and Brutus Beefcake, who was not put in the main event because of Hulk Hogan. He made that perfectly clear on this show. He was a superstar. He did it on his own. It wasn't Hulk Hogan.
Don't you remember how over he was when he was teaming with Hulk Hogan? I mean, it makes perfect sense. Anyway, yeah. This was, they went against Savage and, like, Zeus, right?
Right. And, obviously, that was done to promote Hulk's big movie, No Holds Barred.
That was a classic.
That was a fantastic movie. We all love that one. My question about that movie, my quick rant about that movie. Okay, he acted like Hulk Hogan, he dressed like Hulk Hogan, he wrestled like Hulk Hogan, he was the WWF champion, and yet they called him Rip.
Rip Taylor. Was it Rip Taylor?
Something like that. It was something stupid. And I was like, why didn't they call him Hulk Hogan?
I don't know. That was
because he's an actor, damn it.
He doesn't go away, old James Walsh. Anyway, I saw why Vince put Zeus into this match to promote the movie. It was just, I don't know, they should have had Savage stay in that match the entire time. It just seems like for the first 2 years, and I can't remember, I think it goes into 91 too. It felt like SummerSlam main events were exactly what you said, Patrick, was WrestleMania Part 2. It was always the fallout of Mania.
Yeah.
Granted, that's because there was no pay-per-views in between, obviously. But, it was, I think I liked 89 a little more than I liked 88, but neither of these two rank up in my high ones. But I think if it had just been like maybe a rematch between Savage and Hogan, it would have been good. But
I thought the main event was okay, and I think considering the guy had obviously never been trained to wrestle, I thought Hogan and Savage and yes, even Buddy Beefcake carried the match to a decent main event.
Yeah, I just think it probably would have been better if they just had a rematch from WrestleMania.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. Of course, anytime Hogan and Savage work is better than a tag match. So.
Yeah. But
okay.
So 1990.
1990. This was actually one of my favorites. A lot of good moments here. Opening match was the Rockers versus Power and Glory, where the story I heard is that Shawn Michaels was injured in a motorcycle accident. So early in the match, he was attacked by Hercules and attacked him in the knee, and he was completely out for the whole match, forcing Marty to work a handicap match.
I don't like this match for the single reason that I'm a mark, and because Shawn wasn't involved in
Shawn did absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but no, it's the Rockers.
He did so well though.
The Rockers seem to match up so well with big tag teams, and actually little tag teams as well, like the Orient Express. And they had some good matches with Power and Glory, and it was just it was good. It was good seeing Vince get some young talent on the show, and this was a good way to liven up the crowd.
Yeah, credit goes to Marty Jannetty for working that match by himself.
Yeah,
while John
definitely.
was being superstar seller on the outside.
All right, let's go further in.
Okay, what else was on this card? They had the whole story going on with Dusty Rhodes' manager Sapphire putting away from him. Does anybody remember that? I brought that up with a few people, and I'm the only one that remembers it, but apparently she'd received some gifts like pearl necklace and a fur coat and a trip around the world, and...
Kurt Angle.
Now, it was our buddy Ted DiBiase, who we've already said was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, and he gained a lot of heat for humiliating Dusty Rhodes and stealing his manager, which kind of confused me at the time. What was Sapphire supposed to be to DiBiase once he bought her out?
Well, he
a maid or a girlfriend?
Okay, I'm gonna catch a lot of heat here, but they seem to like making DiBiase have African American underlings, shall we say?
Yes.
So maybe that's where they were going. I put that as delicately as I could, but that was the angle. That's what it seems they were doing.
The slave owner.
Yeah. Okay, you just blew everything I tried to do out of proportion. But yeah, I don't.
He was a heel.
He was a heel.
And then eventually Virgil whipped his ass, as we'll find next SummerSlam. But the White Panther got his butt kicked.
Yeah. Sure. It's like in the Dave Chappelle episode where the time haters go back in time and kill the slave owner, but and Dave Chappelle claimed they couldn't show it because he shot him so many times. But I have no idea. I just think DiBiase probably should have been cheered at that point because Dusty Rhodes looks so ridiculous in that polka dotted outfit.
Well, that was weird. A lot of people seem to trash that, and I agree that was not exactly Dusty's best run, but he was over. I don't know why, but he was over.
I don't know.
For that 2 years he was there.
All right, let's go down the card.
Okay. Okay. This match, many consider to be the greatest tag team match of all time, and I seem to fall in that category too. This is one of my favorites: the Hart Foundation versus Demolition in a 2 out of 3 falls match.
Yeah, it was a good one. I don't know about greatest because I've never really thought of that, but yeah, you could put it up there.
Yeah, it was always one of my favorites, and the Hart Foundation won their, I believe, their second tag team championship.
Yeah, I think that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And somebody's going to email me and say, "No, it was 3, you bastard." Something like that. I don't know.
But that's why when I always say something that I'm not sure, I'm like, I think, and I have a quizzical sounding voice, so I'm not like, well, it was second, I know for sure. But yeah. So
the expectation is that it was 2.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a fantastic match. So it's definitely a big reason to see the SummerSlam if you would like to rent it or buy it. So yeah.
Of course, then this was the first SummerSlam to really not have a carryover from WrestleMania. We had a double main event. First of them being Hulk Hogan answering the challenge by the Earthquake, who had put him out of action for about 2 months while Hogan nursed his injuries. As we all know, he was really filming Suburban Commando, and another one of the Hulk classic movies.
The funny thing is, my roommate actually has that movie, and I remember the preview because it was on my Ninja Turtles tapes, my Teenage Ninja Turtles 2 home video, and I just remember the line. And then he's like, "Do you know what you're gonna do to me? And we're gonna do to you." And then Hogan says, "You're gonna kick my butt." And then he goes, "This is the '90s. We're gonna sue you." That was the punchline for the movie, and I laughed, but because it was so goofy. But I just remember I was like, "Oh man, Christopher Lloyd got frozen." But I just couldn't let you say Suburban Commando and not talk about it.
Well, I remember that too, and I thought it was hysterical. By the way, that guy in the trailer looked like Earthquake.
Oh, the guy who was talking to him?
Yeah.
There was a lot of actual wrestlers that appeared in this movie. The Undertaker is actually in the movie.
You're a dead man, Hogan.
Yeah, he had the little girl voice.
Out of nowhere.
He had a little girl voice, and then actually Sting makes an appearance. And the Sting that would feud with Hogan a few years later as Hogan tries to help him as the mime in the street.
Really?
Hogan feud him.
No, it was a mime on the street, but he looked like Sting looked when Hogan was feuding with him.
Oh.
Okay.
Anyway. Actually, there's a picture in one of the old wrestling magazines I have. It's from Fall Brawl '99, and it has Hogan and Sting punching each other. And it says underneath it says, "Little known fact: mimes hate clowns." And the way they had Hogan, his hair was shooting up in the picture, so he looked like he had clown hair. And it would just look one of the most ridiculous-looking fights I've ever seen. But,
Okay, where were we? Hogan versus Earthquake, that's right.
yes.
Yes. I actually thought that this was a really good match. When I first started watching wrestling, that was the feud, Hogan and Earthquake, and I know a lot of people don't seem to remember this feud. That was the feud that got me into wrestling in the first place. I remember watching that segment as a kid where Earthquake just beat the living daylights out of Hogan, and thinking, I want to see Hogan come back and beat this guy. And we got our big payoff at SummerSlam.
How could anyone not remember this feud? It dominated most of 1990.
Nobody talks about it.
I just remember this one, and I'm not making fun of this in any way, but I just remember this being Diet Hogan versus Andre. It always seemed an easy drawing thing, and it worked, quite frankly, to have Hogan against the big monster guy, and then have Hogan kill him and win. This was kind of like Hogan and Andre without that. I mean, it made money. It didn't make as much money as Hogan and Andre, obviously, but Earthquake wasn't as good as Andre, but he was sufficient. I've always liked John Tenta. I don't know why. I just think he seems like a nice guy who just tries his best. And but yeah, I really didn't have too many problems with this feud.
Yeah, neither did I. And John Tenta, I always thought he was one of the better big men. Again, not as good as Andre, but not many big men are. So yeah. I thought Earthquake was very good. So let's move on.
Go ahead. Wait. It was a double main event. What was the other one?
The other one was the Ultimate Warrior versus Ravishing Rick Rude in a steel cage match.
Oh yeah, this is a great match. Not as great. I'm going to get an interruption here. Not as great as James Walsh would have you believe, but it's a good match.
I agree.
I think the problem with this feud is the fact that when Warrior beat Hogan, WWE was so preoccupied with how to build up the match so it would be babyface versus babyface, neither guy would get booed. They did not bother to build up any strong heels for Warrior to take on. So by the time Warrior had the belt, they say, who do we have? And then they're like, well, Rick Rude beat him. Yeah, Rick Rude beat him once. Warrior beat him 4,000 times after that. So Rude's one thing over Warrior. Warrior had about 90 times over him. So fans really didn't take Rude seriously as a challenger, and that was the big problem with Warrior's title reign. So
he already killed everybody.
Yeah, if they had built up a new guy in the months that Warrior was chasing Hogan for the title, and set them up for a program, it would have been fine. But they were so preoccupied with this match, and it came off great. But the aftermath, Warrior, financially and critically actually, everything. I mean, money went down.
Yeah, and the one heel they did build up, they fed to Hogan. That was the Earthquake.
Yeah, that actually would have been a nice switch if you had Rude and Hogan, because I don't think they ever worked together. I could be wrong.
I don't think
email me, nerds.
Survivor Series 87, they were on opposing teams.
But Warrior and Earthquake probably would have worked very well. But yeah, so this wasn't the match made. This wasn't the wedding one, was it?
No, that was the next year.
Okay, yeah, I always get them mixed up. All right,
Warrior and Earthquake feuded on an episode of Superstars.
And Warrior killed him.
Warrior kept sitting on Earthquake kept sitting on the Warrior, and Hogan made the save.
That was before.
Well, what we were saying though, like the long-term feud.
Yes.
Okay, go back to your cave. All right, Patrick, hook us up with the next one.
Okay, SummerSlam 91. This is actually a very special show to me. It was the first pay-per-view I ever ordered live. So I tend to hold this one up as one of my more favorite, not only SummerSlams, but favorite pay-per-view events.
I gotcha.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff here, too.
Hello?
Yes.
You there?
I'm here.
Go ahead.
Everybody there. Okay. Well, I think the first match on this card that comes to everybody's mind was Bret the Hitman Hart defeating Mr. Perfect for the Intercontinental title.
That was a great match. That was
one of my favorites.
Yeah, these two worked so well together. It seemed like, I don't know, Perfect was just so great in those Intercontinental title matches when he worked face or heel. And this was another good one. It seemed like the two just meshed so well. Perfect was the arrogant jerk. That actually later Shawn Michaels would take that role when he feuded with Bret. And Bret was a serious technician, and it worked very well. Obviously, as this match is rated very highly with most people. Most people enjoy it a lot. But yeah, I personally enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, like I said, one of my favorites, and Bret Hart is my personal favorite wrestler of all time. The only possible exception being Ricky Steamboat. But I've always loved Bret, and to see him win his first singles title at my first pay-per-view was really special for me, and I really enjoyed that. So, great for me.
You're such a dork. No, I'm just kidding.
I cried when Bret won. It was such a great moment. I'm tearing up right now just thinking about it.
Don't get me started. When Shawn lost to Angle at WrestleMania 27, I called up James and I was screaming at him, and he was like, "Calm down." But let's go on to the next up on the card.
Okay. Another special thing on this card, I believe Andre the Giant made his final television appearance for the WWE, WWF, whatever the hell its name is. And he was in the corner of the Bushwhackers as they faced the natural disasters, earthquake and typhoon.
Oh, come on. What a way to have Andre go out. I know they couldn't have predicted anything, but, I mean, come on. You know?
Well, actually, I thought his fallout at WrestleMania 6, where he beat up Heenan and Haku, was much better.
Oh, yeah.
I think most people will.
Wait, but that was before this, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is, I don't know. I wish they would have had a better way to send him off. I don't know.
Oh, well, he came out on crutches, and it was obvious that he wasn't in the best of shape, which is sad to see, because Andre was really one of the true greats of the wonderful world of wrestling.
Yeah, I always love, though, because Princess Bride is one of my favorite movies of all time. I just love him in that movie. He's fantastic. It's just,
the four horses and the four of us.
Yeah, people remember that Hogan was a big movie star well, not a big, but he was a movie star in the 80s. Obviously, a lot of people forget about Piper. Piper did actually very good financial numbers for the budget to the movies he had. And Andre, of course, Andre was very famous. Andre is more famous than a lot of people realize. He's been referenced on Family Guy. People know who he is. He's been referenced on The Simpsons. Andre is a lot more famous than people seem to realize, and he was, for a while, a mainstream star.
Yeah, I believe they said that before Hogan really became the big thing, Andre was the megastar known worldwide.
Yeah.
He was so huge that he was an instant worldwide success.
Yeah, and I don't know, there's something came off of him as charming, you know, and just... And
he's very likable.
Yeah, although I've heard he was brutal to people he didn't like in the ring, but I mean, he was to us, the fans, he came off as very lovable and a big friendly giant until he started destroying people in the ring. But yeah, so
I heard a funny story about Andre. I heard that he worked a match with Bad News Brown in Mexico, I believe, and somebody will correct me if I'm wrong. And apparently, when he was doing his normal spot where he would sit down on the guy, he had diarrhea and crap.
Oh my God. Bad News Brown, indeed.
Yep.
He had a Bad News Brown on Bad News Brown. This is the most mature episode we've ever done.
Oh, yes.
Bookmark this disgusting episode. All right, go with the card.
Alrighty. Next match was the $1 Million Man versus Virgil, a big payoff to their feud, which I thought was probably the best feud in 1991.
As the slave driver got beat, we're gonna get like hate mail for saying this, but Virgil beat the crap out of Ted DiBiase.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the thing was, Virgil was never really that great of a worker, but the storyline they worked out for him to get away from DiBiase was so hot that when they finally get away, you're like, oh man, this guy doesn't need to be a great worker. He's over. Why don't they just do something with him? I never did anything with him.
No, he won the $1 Million belt, and I think he lost it about a month later, and that was pretty much the end of him. But yeah, I really enjoyed this match, and Roddy Piper, who had been Virgil's trainer or mentor or whatever, was doing color commentary, and he did a fantastic job on commentary, putting Virgil and this match as a whole over.
Yeah,
that really added a lot.
Piper played a big part in that feud about, helping Virgil realize that DiBiase was just using him. And I'm actually going to throw this tidbit out there. If you know it, that's fine, but a lot of people don't know this. Virgil was actually named Virgil because it was a shot taken by the bookers in WWE at Dusty Rhodes, whose real name is Virgil Runnels, in NWA. That's why he was named Virgil. When he went to WCW, he was called Vincent because of the shot at Vince McMahon. He was later renamed Curly Bill. I don't know this for sure. I can only assume this was a shot at Bill Watts. And then later on, he was named Shane, obviously Shane McMahon. But
wow.
It seems his entire career has been built around people saying, hey, instead of trying to make this guy make money, why don't we just make fun of people with him? That's a good idea there, Vince. Anyway, so
great.
Let's go. Yeah.
Okay, another great moment here. I still say this is one of the funniest things that the WWF ever did. It was hysterical. Big Boss Man defeated the Mountie in the jailhouse match, and the Mountie had to spend the night in jail.
Don't you just love the way leather feels against your body?
I still say that's probably the funniest thing they've ever done. It was that it was hysterical.
Was I the only one who loved the character of the Mountie?
I loved it. He was great.
It was so corny. It was great. I just...
Well, his theme song was even better.
Yeah,
I'm a Mountie.
That's
always get our man.
That's why this is Patrick's singing debut. So
I sang last time, didn't I? I don't remember.
Maybe, I don't know. But I remember in 1998 when WWE brought over Steven Regal, and they had him as a gimmick. His gimmick was a real man's man, and the promos for him were him in jeans and a plaid sweatshirt in the forest, squeezing his own orange juice and chopping down trees slightly. And the thing was like, he's a man's man. He squeezes his own orange juice. And they sung about all these lame things he did that made him a man's man. And it just reminded me of the Mountie. And I thought, this is so good. This has got to get over. But and Regal had that deadpan expression on his face that made it work so well. And but it's just, I don't know. I'd like to see more characters like that, because I think they would get, don't push them for the world title, but they could certainly make a lot of money because they'd be so entertaining,
I agree with that. I think the reason Regal failed, part of it is because in WCW he'd been a British pompous blue blood, and I think people remembered that, and I don't know.
Regal had Go ahead.
What? No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, Regal had some of the funniest mannerisms in WCW, and I just remember watching Saturday nights. Regal came on, I always knew I was going to laugh, because he had that stupid strut he'd do. He'd have his nose in the air. It was so ridiculous. You just had to laugh. I mean, if not, you're taking wrestling way too seriously. But it was fun. I've always enjoyed Regal. I thought he's a funny character.
Well, look at what he did with Eugene. That stuff was great.
Yeah, it was. Eugene probably wouldn't have been half as funny if you didn't have Regal to play off of, because you need Abbott and Costello together. You can't have one by the other. Not as funny. But yeah, so let's go to the other parts of this card.
Okay, what else did? LOD won their first WWF Tag Team Championship and became the only team in history to hold the AWA, WCW, NWA, and WWF Tag Team titles.
A feat which I think is much more important than the Dudleys 4 zillion tag titles. And granted, I respect the Dudleys. I think they're a fantastic team. I just think that it's so easy to hold titles these days, but when the Road Warriors did it, man, that was something special. I mean, that was huge. I mean, that was absolutely huge that they did that, because, it was very few promoters would really let the other guys talent to get over in their company, but the Road Warriors managed to do it, and that's why I always say they are like the Hulk Hogan of tag teams, because they're very much like Hogan, and they were just so successful everywhere they went that, it was just...
All right, let's move on to the main event of SummerSlam 91. Of course, the wrestling side of the main event. That would be Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior taking on Sergeant Slaughter, the Iron Sheik, who went by the name Colonel Mustafa, and General Adnan in the match made in hell.
The match made in hell. It was made in hell. But let's not get this confused, my friends, with the tag team match from hell, which occurred between Savage and Sid, taking on Nash and Sting. This was a different type of hell match. But go ahead, Patrick. Tell us.
Okay, personally, I thought, okay. Restart. Okay, good. I just had a brain fart again. Okay. Sid Vicious, going by the name Sid Justice, made his WWF debut as the special guest referee for this bout.
Oh, I tie them together so well. Go ahead.
Yeah. Personally, I thought the match itself was decent, not great. I thought they carried the Iraq sympathizer thing way too long. It should have ended at WrestleMania 7. And my idea for a main event here would have been to have Hulk Hogan versus Jake Roberts and have Ultimate Warrior versus The Undertaker, since there seemed to have been a feud between Warrior and the two evil dudes. Well, or maybe they could have done a tag match. I think any combination of those four superstars would have been better.
Well, that would make sense, because Undertaker and Hogan would then have a reason for, a better reason for actually wrestling later in the year. They could have started the interaction here. I didn't like the match. I was plotting, which is surprising, because I'm one of, like, me, James, and, like, only not too many people like the WrestleMania 7 match between Slaughter and Hogan.
I like that match.
I don't know why, but I do. I do like it. This one, I didn't get into it. That's just me. But yeah, so, but of course the reason Jake Roberts couldn't do that is because he was involved in the match made to happen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, man. Tell us about
the
this.
nice heavenly part of the show. Remember a time in wrestling when a wedding angle was not annoying?
No.
Oh, really? Because I actually enjoyed this, because I love Randy Savage and I love Elizabeth, and I think everybody wanted to see them tie the knot. And we got a little storybook ending, and I sound like a girl here.
Didn't Jake Roberts, like, interrupt it?
Actually, that was at the wedding reception, which they show on the Coliseum video version, but I don't believe it made the pay-per-view.
Oh.
He made it to TV afterwards.
Oh, okay. Because
I have it on. It's on the tape, but I don't think it was on the pay-per-view.
Because I didn't see it live. I only saw the video version. So.
It was on one of Lord Alfred Hayes' special reports.
I love that guy. But okay, let's go ahead to, of course, one of my personal favorites. That is 1992 from the absolutely phenomenal Wembley Arena, I believe.
Yeah.
And man,
Stadium.
What a card this was. The Wembley Stadium,
which is no longer in existence.
Yeah. So, yep. Patrick, why don't you run us out? Actually,
Alice Cooper concert was the last thing to ever take place at the Wembley Stadium.
Wow.
I'm shocked. Okay. I believe the opening match here was the Legion of Doom versus Money Incorporated in a, was it a tag title match? I don't remember.
I don't believe it was, because I think the Natural Disasters defended it later in the show. Okay. I remember this was the debut of what would actually save the Legion of Doom, because they weren't getting over too well. They'd had moderate success where they were, so obviously Vince McMahon decided to bring out a puppet, a ventriloquist dummy called Rocco. This would come out on Paul, and he'd come out on Paul Ellering's arm, and obviously wrestling fans love dummies. So what better way to get the LOD over?
No. Wrestling fans are dummies.
Oh.
This isn't his show, guys. Don't take his words for ours.
The opinions of James Walsh are not that of the host of the internet edition of the WrestlingEpicenter.com.
But, well, that's why they buy Hogan stuff. No, I'm just kidding. I had to get the cheap shot if he's going to do that. But, yeah, so they bring out this ventriloquist dummy, which, quite frankly, I'm afraid of ventriloquist dummies. And it's just, I don't know, it's stupid. Who laughed at my ventriloquist dummy fear?
James did.
James and Patrick is too. Now,
Yeah.
well, ha ha ha. Go. Enough with this match. It was,
Okay. It was a good match, though. It was a good match.
Here's the match. Well, not the next match, but a match I really enjoyed, and big surprise it involved Shawn Michaels. But I'm sure most people will agree with me. It was Shawn versus the model Rick Martel, and they were teasing the fact that Shawn might be losing Sherry to the model. And so they had the match, and the Sherry made the stipulation that neither man could punch the other in his face because they were quote unquote so good looking. So this added some extra psychology to the match that really made it more entertaining than it would have been without it. And this is one of not including Shawn's win over Tito Santana at WrestleMania 7. This is one of Shawn's first big singles wins on pay-per-view.
Did he win that match? I thought it was a double DQ.
No. Did I say win? I just meant actual match. No, it was a double DQ.
Best part of that match was Sherry wore a white thong.
Yeah, that was cool. Anyway, off the perverted
I personally thought this was the sleeper hit of the show. I thought it was a decent match, and that skit at the end where they were carrying Sherry up the entranceway, and they had a huge entrance ramp, and they kept fighting over to get to carry Sherry all the way to the back because she had gotten knocked out during the match or something like that.
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical. Because one of them would carry her, then the other guy would knock him down and drop Sherry, then he'd pick her up and carry her back. It was funny. I thought.
Another match, and this was way towards the end, that I really enjoyed simply because the entrance was so cool, was Undertaker versus Kamala. Now, I don't really care about the match itself, but man, that was a kick-ass entrance.
The hearse, right?
Yeah.
That was cool. That was cool.
No, that was one of his better entrances.
Right,
but
Taker was the master of great entrances.
Yeah, it was. But I don't really remember much about the match except Kim Chi was jumping up and down. But there's so many reasons to see this pay-per-view, and another reason is to see Undertaker enter in that hearse. It's really cool. But
strange thing about this match. Strange thing here. I have like 4 Best of SummerSlam tapes downstairs somewhere, and all 4 of them have this match on that tape. I don't know why, because I don't think the match was good enough to be considered one of the best of SummerSlam, but for some reason, I guess people liked seeing these two together, because as we saw on SmackDown, Kamala was one of the legendary opponents of The Undertaker. So.
Indeed he was.
Yeah.
Obviously, the world title is a first, obviously, or, unprecedented, I think, was the world title match was relegated to a little lower in the card, because we had the Intercontinental title match in the main event, but that was between Savage and the Warrior. And of course, the big question with this was what was Mr. Perfect on anyone's side, and what impact would Ric Flair have? It was actually a pretty good match. I trashed the Ultimate Warrior, but when push comes to shove, apparently at SummerSlam, I got to give the man his props.
Yeah, 3rd match in a row that 91 tag match wasn't too good, but this is, I don't know. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe he was actually a fantastic worker, and he just...
Maybe we psyched ourselves into thinking he was terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. But,
you did.
Pretty good. And I thought, did Ric Flair wrestle on the card at all?
No.
Stop doing that.
No.
Go away.
So I knew
it'd be our own show after this.
Anyway. That was...
Ric Flair was such a draw that he was not on SummerSlam in front of a huge crowd, and then when he won the world title, he was such a big draw that they didn't use his title loss on pay-per-view. They didn't use his title loss on a dome show. They didn't use his title loss even on a TV show. They did it on a house show because they knew it would draw so well.
A Coliseum videotaping, no less.
And James Walsh has no shame with his feud with Ric Flair.
No, of course not.
James Walsh is going to pay money to Flair's going to die, and James is going to be like, "Can I speak of the eulogy?" And then he's going to get up there and he's going to trick everybody into thinking it's a heartfelt thing, and then he's going to start saying, "Ric Flair was a great man, but he wasn't a great draw." And he's going to get booed out of the strip club where Flair's being buried in. But anyway, let's go more through the 92 card. How about the main event? Bret Hart versus the British Bulldog. Fantastic match.
One of the greatest matches of all time. I always put this one at least within my top 3. I
wouldn't put it that high, but that's me. I do enjoy this match. It's a fantastic technical wrestling match, and Bulldog wins in front of his hometown, and the reaction is huge.
I put it number 1 on my list.
Okay. Bye.
Uninvade.
What?
Huh?
What'd you say?
Keep on invading, Walsh.
Yeah. He's like...
I'm like the NWO.
he's like the Alliance, because we're not putting them over. No, everybody missed my joke. I took a crack at the invasion angle. But go ahead. Okay. So let's get to SummerSlam 1993.
All right, yeah, this is another really good one. The match that I think really sticks out here is, two matches. Bret the Hitman Hart and his saga with Jerry the King Lawler and Doink the Clown.
Oh, Doink the Clown. This was actually when Doink was cool, because he was evil. Yeah. Was this the one where Lawler had to kiss his foot, or was that 95?
That was 95.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
the ring, I believe. Yeah.
Lawler is actually like undefeated at SummerSlam. I believe he's beaten like Brett twice and Doink the Clown and Taz. I remember reading some weird fact, but
we'll have to look into that.
Yeah, we will.
I'm not entirely sure on that, but yeah, this was a show where Brett refused to let go of the sharpshooter and got himself disqualified. But as we all could see, and all Brett's fans could see, Brett got the moral victory, and we didn't care.
Oh yeah, well you can get the moral victory. Guess what? You got to win the match, buddy. And if you're gonna let your temper get in your way, heck, you're no better than Ken Shamrock. Okay? You got to win the match.
Brett didn't lose the title over this. He lost the official title of King of the WWF, but like that really mattered.
Well, who still got it there? No, I'm just kidding. But what else did this have? I had Shawn Michaels and Kurt Hennig.
I don't remember that match. I'm sure that those are two tremendous talents. I'm sure the match must have been good.
It was. It seems like whenever I actually have the DVD, The Best of the Intercontinental Championship. I'm not kidding you. Every single match on that DVD ends in a count out. This is one of those, and it's actually not even best of Intercontinental title. It's like best of Shawn Michaels and a Bret Hart match with Skinner. But
I think I have that on VHS actually.
Yeah, they keep re-releasing all the old ones, but this was a good match. It was great because Perfect and Michaels had such a similar gimmick and now Perfect was a face, so you wanted to see this. You wanted to see the two go at it, and the feud had been built up, and unfortunately, this was really the culmination of it. They never really had that real blow-off to the feud, which was unfortunate, but yeah.
I think shortly after this, Shawn was stripped of the IC title. I don't know, maybe I'm a little early here, but I believe he was stripped of the IC title and
he was stripped
off
in September.
TV.
Yeah.
What was it, September?
Yeah.
Okay, that's I was right, and that would lead into their ladder match with Razor Ramon. Yeah, that was a classic, as we all know. Another match on this card that I thought was quite interesting, and I anybody who doesn't say that Taker is a good worker, watch this match. He carried Giant Gonzalez to the greatest match of his career, which is like saying a stub toe isn't as bad as lung cancer, but Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez.
Wasn't that like, because I don't even remember seeing this match. Wasn't it like it was a rest in peace match, but what the hell did that mean?
No DQ.
No DQ.
Yeah, and
that was going to be something cool.
Yeah, and well, after the match, Taker knocked out Gonzalez and put a wreath over him. So.
A wreath?
Yeah. You lose, you get a wreath put on you.
Oh man. That Undertaker, what will he do?
Yeah, well, anyway, I've always said that Taker deserves credit for A, getting this feud over, and B, being able to carry Gonzalez to slightly watchable matches.
Oh, Gonzalez, where have ye gone? All right. So, I'm sorry. I remember the main event was really stupidly booked because it was Lex Luger and Yokozuna for the world title, and it was I'm sorry, I'm coughing. And the stipulation was if Luger could not win the title, he would never get another shot because Cornette had put that all into place. So Luger knocks Yokozuna outside the ring, and Yokozuna gets counted out, and Luger wins by countout, and they're all celebrating like he wins the title, and the show goes off the air.
Yeah, I do remember that. Well, first of all, I thought it was a great match. Surprisingly long. I think it went about 20 minutes, which is long for a guy like Yokozuna. But yeah, great match. I'm going to try and explain the ending as best I can. I know it was probably not the best way to go, but Yokozuna had destroyed every hero that had been put in his path. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Randy Savage, Bret Hart, and he demolished Hulk Hogan. Hogan didn't
with the help
slam
of
him.
the mystery photographer. Remember the mystery photographer?
Yes, I do, and we don't remember. They never revealed who that jackass was.
Oh, I know who it was.
Who was it?
The same man who distracted Hogan in 1998 was Karl Malone. He knew it was going to happen, and he prepared for it. He set up Hogan. That's what happened. I'll say it right now. But anyway, go ahead.
He disguised himself as a 4-foot-tall Japanese guy.
He's good. He's the mailman.
He's the mailman.
I mean, he was on his knees when he did it, but you can tell from the camera.
All right, so go ahead with the story.
Anyway,
explain this train wreck.
Anyway, Yokozuna destroyed all the heroes. Lex Luger went in there, knocked Yokozuna out, did not get destroyed, slammed him, and did basically everything that the crowd wanted to do except win the title. So I think that was just excitement over seeing, oh my God, Yokozuna didn't kill anybody.
Well, he'd already done that at the USS Intrepid, so that was already done. So
yeah,
he kind of wanted to win the title, but anyway.
They didn't want to take the belt off Yoko. My idea would have been to have him knock out Yokozuna with the bionic forearm, get the pin, and then the next night on Raw they strip him of the title. Do it that way.
I got you.
Interesting. The best part of this was the rap video leading up to SummerSlam 1993, where Men on a Mission, I don't remember the song, but I just remember the line, "We felt the mighty call from the mighty Lex Express."
Okay.
Hey, it's Oscar, Mabel, and Mo. Everybody now say yo, yo, yo. Those are raps.
Well, that was a fantastic game. The greatest tag team of all time.
It was the greatest thing since PN News.
And who remembers that guy?
Matt Nagel. Matt Nagel's his son. Anyway, okay, so let's go on. Our final SummerSlam, since we're running a little late here, SummerSlam 1994.
Okay, well, there wasn't a whole lot here. One match that I remember being really good was Razor Ramon versus Diesel for the Intercontinental title. One of the few times that Diesel actually worked a good match in the WWF.
You mean from Mr. Razor Ramon?
Yeah.
Well, this was part of Michael's plan to get revenge on Ramon after Razor had beaten him pretty much every time they faced. And, so eventually, of course, the whole thing is Diesel became more successful than Shawn, and that started their feud. So
yeah,
it was kind of the beginning of that, really.
Right. Just a shame that wasn't handled as well as it could have been, because I think that feud, if handled properly, could have been huge. But I think they gave Diesel the WWF title way too soon. But
well, money will agree with you. But go ahead.
Okay. Another match on this card. What some people seem to think is the greatest cage match of all time. I don't know about that, but it was a pretty damn good one. Bret the Hitman Hart versus the King of Hearts, Owen Hart, in a steel cage match, which I already said.
I thought you were talking about the first blood match from Uncensored 99, because that's my favorite cage match of all time.
I hope you're being sarcastic.
I am. Okay, let's. Yeah, that was a good cage match, Owen and Bret. They always worked well together, and this was the really the culmination. I mean, yeah, they had their scuffles after that, but this was pretty much the big blow-off for the Bret-Owen feud.
Right, and especially since Owen had scored a victory over Bret at WrestleMania, Owen came across as a legit threat to the title.
Yep.
Yeah, it was very good. Of course, let's go to a not-so-good match. The Undertaker versus The Undertaker. What did you think of this main event?
All right, well, the match is beside the point. The point is, if this angle was done correctly, it would have made a lot of money. And they proved it when they did the same angle in 1997. It's called Undertaker and Kane. It was essentially the same angle, only they learned from their mistakes. I remember we talked to Artie Rhodes, and he was like, blah, 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 blah. I didn't like that Leslie Nielsen was doing stuff for it. I was like, well, it's really beside the point. The idea was the concept of another Undertaker-like being taking on Undertaker would have been cool. And it was, as the Undertaker and Kane feud later showed. Of course, I'm talking about the original feud, not the reincarnations that happened 45 times later. But, yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, not a whole lot to report there. I did think Taker's entrance was really cool. They kept building it up and building it up. They had the Druids bring out the casket, and the urn was in the casket, not the Undertaker, and they just kept teasing the crowd saying, is he really going to show up? Is he really going to show up? And he did, and it was awesome. Another fantastic entrance by the Undertaker.
It would have been funny if he didn't enter, and then fake Undertaker won by countout, like Bischoff. and everybody said, yes, that's awesome. Countout win. Yeah.
No main event.
So we've gone well over an hour here.
Yes.
Let's close out our show, Mr. Patrick Kelly.
Well, let me just jump in here. Funniest thing that happened years later in TNA was Mike Sanders against Brian, what the hell was his name?
Brian Lee.
Brian Lee. Yeah, I couldn't remember his last name. I wanted to say Adams or Clark, yeah. Yeah, he was the fake Undertaker, Brian Lawler. He was all of 5'10". And he had a strange affinity to rap music.
Yeah. Funkmaster Taker. Whatever.
Mike Sanders always called Brian Lee the faker taker. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. What a tale you have weaved for us, Mr. Walsh. Patrick, why don't you close this out?
Okay. Well, thank you for listening to yet another edition of the internet version of the Wrestling Epicenter.
We'll have a name next week.
Yeah, we will have a name. We'll try and come up with one. We promise. Be sure to check out Chuck D and James Walsh's show Wednesday night. That would be 8:30 for their time, and that's 11:30 for us dudes on the East Coast. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, or as I call it, real people time.
Real people time.
Yeah. Why does Disneyland celebrate our New Year's instead of theirs?
Because it's in Orlando.
No, Disneyland is in California. Disney World is in Orlando.
Oh, don't worry. I agree with you. I think it's ridiculous that I have to learn Mountain Standard Time.
Yeah.
But we got a big guest, and if you go to the website, you can read who the guest is.
But you got to. That's our ploy. You got to go to the website.
Mm-hmm.
Get a few hits. Anyway, have a good night. Thanks for listening to the show, and peace out.
Word life.
As I commanded.
I thought peace was in.
The Wrestling Epicenter has been around since 2002, and in that time, all these guests, everybody pictured, has been on our podcast. We're more than just a radio show, though, so check out WrestlingEpicenter.com for all your wrestling news and needs.